What is up? What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Deal Makers Club. And before we get started with today's dive into the South Carolina and really North Carolina too market, really this past weekend was one of those weekends that really goes full circle. My daughter, she kind of has been preparing for the last 3 months, and it was extremely cool to see her first run in kind of the arts. And she was planning to play Matilda, part of the ensemble with the middle school. But as a fourth grader, it was a pretty big deal to kind of move up and be part of that, and just the grind with practicing 2 hours, every day during the school week. The last couple of weeks, it was 4 to 10 in the evening after school went out, and just seeing all the hard work that she put in at such a young age for a 10-year-old. That was something we really weren't exposed to at that age when it comes to just the theater side. On top of that, the boys kicked off soccer this weekend. And, for me being, first time really in the true coach's seat, I've helped as an assistant before in the past, but being a coach and a little nervous on the front end with to see how it was going to play out and go. We ended up winning 5-3 and really had fun there. I got to catch the first 15 minutes of my oldest son before my game to see him. They won 2-0. So it was a really good weekend. Had my mother-in-law in town and her husband, and they watched the kids for us. We shot down to Atlanta Saturday evening for a surprise 70th birthday party for my aunt there. That was phenomenal. Just celebrating, seeing the family, aunts and uncles and cousins, seeing my dad. My sister and him came up for Orlando, so that was really cool. Spending time with them. Then we got back to Virginia Sunday morning, hit church up, and then we caught the finale for Matilda to play the second time, and had better seats that go around. And it was really good. So it was an extremely busy weekend. But one of the things that we're kind of going through that process, last week I was able to put an article together about just some new data that came out where South Carolina was kind of leading the conversation when it comes to where things are at right now in regards to population growth and what that means for us as investors, but then also just for that area and just the impact that real estate is having on our lives, and just really for those investors that I think a lot of people really lose sight of. And I think why it really matters, like population growth is the leading indicator. More people, more housing demand, more housing equals more development, more capital flow. And when people move, money flows and money follows. And so I think that's the thing here. We're always following the money in the Deal Maker Club. This is what we do. The deal flow is continuing to expand. And I think that's one of the things that we see here with everything that is making instance in this side. They're really looking at the data from July 24 to July 25, that South Carolina was kind of sitting kind of in the leading seat when it came to population growth. This just is based off normal U.S. Census Bureau data, so it's not like some proprietary data that's out there. The Census Bureau, everybody has access to it. But when you look at it, that right now they have the fastest state level growth across the board, and right behind them at 1.3% is North Carolina. And so when you look at that, they're at 3 times the national rate of just 0.5%. And even though we're looking at that right now, that South Carolina is just booming in regards to the growth. And you have it's kind of the tale of I won't say tale of two cities, but when you look at it, that it's across different counties where you look at the coastal and as well as kind of more inland and some of the larger metropolitan areas on where just exactly within the state. We're going to break that down. But really looking at how the top 10 rounded out, that of course you had South Carolina was right there, number one, Idaho, number two, Boise's been on the tear for a while now. But North Carolina was right there, number three. And then, of course, we got the usual suspects with Texas, Utah, Florida's in there, Georgia, the usual suspect. Virginia, hey, 0.7%. That's respectable. 0.7% growth there in Virginia. And you can see some of the losers, the largest loser, Vermont, Hawaii, West Virginia, New Mexico, kind of those numbers. But when you start looking at where within North Carolina and South Carolina, the fastest and the slowest growing counties, got Brunswick. So for those down in, I'm assuming that's probably around Charlotte, but you got Brunswick and Pender County in North Carolina. Then you got South Carolina, you got Jasper and Berkeley and Horry County, kind of all where Jasper's killing at 6%. is like almost twice as much as Berkeley. But you can kind of see those areas where a lot of the population growth is happening and what's driving it. I think when you really look under the hood, that where you have more jobs, you have higher income coming in. That's how you're going to be able to afford to live there. Is you're going to have good paying jobs. And so that's the thing when you look at Wake County around the Raleigh Durham area, they got high paying bio manufacturing jobs for companies like Genentech and Fujifilm. And you got educated talent that attracts employers. You have the triad there. You got Wake Forest, you got Duke, you got UNC, and a host of other kind of, I would say, top tier, second tier type of colleges and institutions, universities there. And right now, median home price sits around 460,000, which is still below many Northeast and some of the Midwest markets as well too. When you start looking at the price per home, and then Mecklenburg County, which is where Charlotte is at, home of Bank of America, Truist headquarters, and then I didn't realize you got a Wells Fargo operations there too that's relocated to Charlotte that they've added a blistering 2.7% jobs in 2025, which is the fastest among all U.S. markets over a million people. That's pretty good. So a lot of things happening there in North Carolina. And so when you start looking at where everything goes, and you kind of can go into the data more on just the difference between the more populated cities and really kind of doing a comparison of the coastal counties here and just kind of where people are going. But you see South Carolina's Jasper County that had that breakneck 6% growth, which they led the entire nation for counties over 20,000 people, that their median home price just over 390,000, which is fairly reasonable. And definitely when you compare it to Hilton Head's 528,000. And so you see you have a lot of retirement, second home demand, plus the spillover from Savannah's port, industrial growth that's happening there. Shout out to Savannah. I know the Military Money Conference is happening there. A lot of military focused financial planners and financial advisors. They're coming up in early May. I haven't been to Savannah in a while, so looking forward to that. But top three fastest growing counties in South Carolina were all coastal. That's something to think about and look at. So with South Carolina, there's a lot of people moving to the coastal, retirement, second home. So, hey, if you're a builder, you're investing, you're looking for opportunities, you can kind of see, hey, where's progress happening? And that's one of the things that you definitely have to take into account. Investors, like, where are the jobs going? Where's the money going? I probably need to look at, how do I get exposure there? Do I need to buy a business there? Do I need to invest in a company there, invest in an asset there? Maybe I need to buy a short-term rental. I manage short-term rentals. I'm saying I do, but maybe you're saying, hey, I have an STR business, a short-term rental business. Maybe I need to pick up property there. There's a lot of activity happening there. And so that's one of the things that you want to look at. And when you look at like coastal Carolina counties, among the fastest growing, this one here just kind of breaks out a lot of Texas counties in here. Waller, Catherman, you got Jackson, Georgia, Long, Georgia, North Carolina here, Brunswick. We talked about that. Then you have two more Texas counties in Georgia as well. So a lot of growth. You guys can see where the growth is happening. Are you close to any of these markets? If so, maybe pick one to focus on, to learn, do a little bit more research, due diligence to get more information on. And I think for a lot of us, when it looks at, what does this mean to me? When you're looking at experienced investing, and I see this with the type of sponsors that I work with on the advisor side, where they're buying deals, where they're doing deals at, where they're building new construction at for single family homes, that we see the data, they're following the data, they're making alignment with their business models based off this data as well too. And so we see all the demand that they're going to providing assets and providing properties to meet this demand. And so that's the thing you're going to see continuously in these areas. You're going to have stronger rental demand. You're going to have home price appreciation, and they're expanding the local economies that reward infrastructure, healthcare, professional service at play, because people that have the money, they're going to expect all those things. And you're going to have a more resilient tax base that keeps attracting more corporate relocation. Same thing we're seeing here in Loudoun County. I did if you didn't read that article I did a couple weeks ago about Amazon just spent well over $400 million to buy an entire college campus in Ashburn, Virginia. And the money and everything that happens when you put that amount of money in the area, it just drives a lot of activity that happens with relocations and things of that nature. I was talking at soccer practice last night with one of Mackenzie's teammates' father, and he buys industrial warehouses here in the local area, has a moving company, and they use it for storage, and they lease back the property from the real estate holding company, and we were just talking about the nature of everything happened. I did the video last week and talked about the article I wrote about Manassas Park. They just bought a $12 million industrial complex, and it was a firm out of Virginia Beach. And guess what? They're building 300 units of mixed use apartment with kind of first story retail spaces there. And that's the thing, that there's a lot of money and capital flowing in these areas. And so I think at the end of the day, you need to look at how do you need to diversify your portfolio? How do you obtain uh, access and I would say exposure to these type of investments to diversify your holdings? And I think that's where everything comes kind of full circle with everything that we're doing. That we're not just talking about real estate and these investments just to be talking about them, but it's like how are you positioning your portfolio for diversification, but then also for long term growth. And so if that's something that you're looking at, like how can I add this into what I'm already doing? How can I get exposure to real estate? Maybe diversify what I have going on right now. I would love to have a conversation. Book your private wealth assessment, the alignment call there on the link. Would love to have those conversations and kind of walk through what I'm seeing with the sponsors that we work with, where they're doing deals. What type of deals? Maybe you want to look at your own deals. Maybe you want to open your own business. Maybe you want to look at buying your own real estate to own 100% by yourself, where you're not looking to partner with others in larger deals. So all those different things are, part of the equation and the conversation that we have. So we'd love to have those, and look forward to having more discussions around this. So if there's any topics that you guys want me to hit on, I know today's a little bit short, but looking forward to it. I know we're going to have Barry Law coming up. We're going to be talking with them. They help veterans with their disability claims. So we're going to be talking about with one of their lead attorneys and their lead business development guy, having a conversation about disability claims and what that means for veterans. So that's one that's really I'm passionate about. We're helping our veterans in that area. So we're going to have that conversation coming up on Deal Makers Club. We have a firm out of the Carolinas, actually, which is great. They're going to be talking about the 2026 debt market and the deals that they're doing. They work a lot with a lot of family offices. So come in for that conversation. It's going to be really great coming up here in the next few weeks, as well as we're going to have a estate planning attorney. My guy Miles, we met a couple weeks ago, and over in Maryland, and he's doing estate planning and helping families build trust to protect their assets. And so we're going to have that conversation coming up here too in the Deal Makers Club. So make sure you guys stay tuned. A lot of things happening. Going to be out in the streets here, a lot of conferences. I'm speaking this weekend at the Military Creator Conference, and really looking forward to speaking to the crowd of veteran entrepreneurs on how they can build wealth, leveraging their VA loan benefits and their thrift saving plans, the TSP, how you can leverage those assets creatively to start building wealth when it comes to real estate. And I'm going to talk about my 3 buckets when it comes to building wealth that you should have, and every investor, and everyone should be an investor, so that everyone should have those 3 buckets when it comes to building wealth and how to properly allocate capital to those. So loving to have those conversations. If you see you in Dallas, if you're going to be there, and if not, I will see you all next week. Let's go. Let's make some equity happen, and be blessed.